Welcome back to Sharf Sports Media. I'm your host, obviously, Josh Sharf. And the NHL offseason, well, it has not disappointed. It has had twists. It has had turns. It has had surprises. And, of course, if you're a Devils fan, it has had disappointments as Johnny Gaudreau stiffed the New Jersey Devils to go to a Metropolitan Division rival in the Columbus Blue Jackets signed there. They just signed Patrik Laine today to an extension and traded Oliver Bjorkstrand. So they've had a lot going on there in Ohio. But the reason for this video is because Johnny Gaudreau's teammate, maybe the more desirable than Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, is officially on the trade block as he has told Calgary, his team, that he will not sign an extension, causing him the RFA to be a UFA next year, and Calgary would like to unload him so they do not lose him for nothing. Now, should the Devils be in on Matthew Tkachuk? If so, how much should they be in on Matthew Tkachuk? Well, the simple answer to the first question is yes, 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 yes. Matthew Tkachuk is exactly what this Devils team needs to go to the next level. You are looking for a top elite winger, like I've been saying for the past 2 or 3 years. It is why you were in on Johnny Gaudreau. It's why you signed Andre Palat, even though he is not a top winger, but to just build on that winger core because you don't have elite wingers or top 6 wingers besides Jesper Bratt at the NHL level right now. You don't. Alexander Holtz is not at that level right now. Sharon Govich, maybe he's more of a, I would consider him more of a middle 6 winger than a top 6 winger. Dawson Mercer could be a top 6 winger, but would you rather have him at center as a third liner? How do you want to play? So you don't know exactly. Dawson Mercer's only been in the league for 1 year. You don't know if he can produce this at this point pace or continue to improve. You hope so and you believe so, but it's not a guarantee. So Matthew Tkachuk, who just put up his career best year, putting up 104 points this year with 42 goals and 62 assists for 104 points. Last year, in 56 games, had 43 points, had 61 and 69 games the year before, and he's been in the league since 2016, 2017. Since after his first 2 years, he's been close to a point per game. Hadn't reached that mark until this year. Exploded. And he's still very, very, very young at a ripe old age, 24. He's going to be 25 this year. But at this young age, Matthew Tkachuk is going to keep getting better. And he's a top 10 winger in this league. If not, he's going to be, if you don't believe he is, I do. And he is going to be a huge difference maker on any team that he makes. And he fits perfectly for what the Devils need. It takes your offense to another level. It gives a scorer, a guy who can really score on Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier's line, as they really need that score as playmaking first guys. Jack Hughes has started to really develop his scoring touch, but he's still, both of them, look for the pass first. So you need a guy who can be a shoot first kind of guy. And although Matthew Tkachuk can dish the puck, he scores the puck better than almost probably anybody on our team. Maybe Jesper Bratt, but no. Sorry to tell you, no. Matthew Tkachuk scores better than anybody on our team. And with the defense being pretty solid right now, you hopefully short up the goaltending end with Vita Vanacek and now Mackenzie Blackwood. You're praying has a bounce back year. Matthew Tkachuk brings just different levels to this team that you haven't had since a Zach Parise or a Kovalchuk on the wing. Seriously, you have not had that type of winger since maybe a Kovalchuk or a Parise. Elias wasn't that guy after they left. He hasn't been the guy since the Stanley Cup runs. Though that's the type of talent you're talking about here in Matthew Tkachuk. Now, how far in should the Devils be going? What should the offer look like? Well, I'll give my initial offer that you would start with. Now, Flames fans, if you're watching this This is not an offer that is guaranteed to be accepted. This is usually the first offer is not accepted, but this is how I would start. Hopefully it would be accepted, but this is where I would start. So you're going to have to start with a first-round pick this year. If you could, I'd make it probably top 2-3 protected, just because I don't think we'll be. If we're in the lottery, something wrong has happened. But with how good Bedard and the Russian kid, I forget his name is, and how good this draft is, just to keep maybe a little protection. But ultimately, it's not that big a deal if it's unprotected. But maybe top 2, top 3 protected, and obviously if it's in the lottery, just becomes an unprotected pick in 2024. But I'd also throw on a 2024 second-round pick, so you have a first this coming draft, a second in 2 drafts. Then you'd throw in Damon Severson, who's a solid top 4 defenseman, who's going to be a free agent next year, who they can re-sign for a couple years. Or if they want, they can flip him at the deadline and get a decent amount for Damon Severson. Is a very when he's on, he's a very good defenseman. Has a couple lapses in judgment, but very solid D-man there that would be moved. I'd go Shakir Mukhamadullin, probably I would say your 4th best prospect, a tier down from your upper 3, which is Hughes, Holtz, and Nemetz. A little tier down, but still projected to be a top 4 defenseman. Going to play in Russia this year, I believe. He's on an ELC right now, as he did play in the playoffs for Utica, but he is going back to Russia. I would add Grzelcyk, who's by most standards our 5th best prospect in the system. Not many people know his name. Here, I'm trying to get some more information on Grzelcyk, but he could be a solid addition to their lineup. Is projected to be a middle 6 winger. And then I'd also go one of the prospects of either Graham Clark, Chase Stillman, Nolan Foote. You'd get 2 of those 3. So they can choose, Chase Stillman being a former first-round pick last year. Nolan Foote being acquired from Tampa Bay, still considered probably a middle to second-line winger at his what he should be. And then, who's the last guy? Graham Clark, who's still considered a top, I wouldn't say consider a top prospect, but consider probably like around 5, a middle, could be a middle 6 winger for you, and is going to give a solid option for you up top. Going back to Arsenij Grzelcyk, he's a left winger. He's really been on the rise. As I said, he played in the juniors KHL and regular KHL. His numbers are one of the best in the entire KHL, not just a young player. He's very good offensively, defensively, and I feel like he's not getting talked about a lot by Devils fans for who could be in a trade. I think somebody who in the NHL community might have a little more value than what the fans say, just because they don't know much about him. But and then I'd also throw in Janssen or Tatar, whichever one they want. So the initial offer is a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Shakir Mukhamadullin, Janssen or Tatar, and then Arsenij Grzelcyk, and then 2 of the 3 of Chase Stillman, Graham Clark, and Nolan Foote. So that'd be, because you minus 1, that'd be 7 players there just for Matthew Tkachuk. Now, that might not get it done. I'll be honest. That might not get it done. You might have to include one of your top 3 prospects. And I would try, all right, so we'll first, before we start off with who I think you could put in, let's start who is off the table. Because that is the initial offer. It's probably not going to get accepted. It could get accepted. That could look like the offer they accept. But I don't know if they would. It's probably leaning more likely not. But the people off the table, in my opinion, there's only 4. There's only 4 names off the table if you're the New Jersey Devils. That's Jack Hughes, obviously. That's Nico Hischier, obviously. That's Luke Hughes. I think he's your number 1 prospect on the defense. You know, you pair him with his brother. I think the season he had in Michigan, and he brings waves to that defense. I think you don't touch Luke Hughes. And Jesper Bratt. I've seen Jesper Bratt in discussions about this trading for Matthew Tkachuk. And I know they want a young stud player, but Jesper Bratt, is Matthew Tkachuk better than Jesper Bratt? Yes, definitely. He is better than Jesper Bratt. But you're trying to add another elite winger to this team. To subtract Jesper Bratt and then get Matthew Tkachuk, would you get better? Yes, but you're not having that significant boost, that increase that you're in production from the wingers that you're looking for, as Jesper Bratt was a point per game last year, around. If you get that, you might get a little better production from Tkachuk, but you're not expecting a 1.5 per game production, so you're not going to get that much added on. You might get in the intangibles. He's going to fight a little bit. He's going to be a little rowdy, He's going to maybe have a little bit of a voice as he just went to the playoffs. So you might be able to talk a little bit about the playoffs and how a star player can play with like Heischer and Hughes. But ultimately, if you give up Bratt, it makes your team better, but not significantly as you would like when getting a player like a Matthew Tkachuk. So, I don't think you need Jesper Bratt in this trade to get it done. That's another important thing. It's not like if Jesper Bratt's not in it, this trade can't get done. That's false. Another player who probably wouldn't get traded, there's two. I don't think they're going to trade for Mackenzie Blackwood. He's supposed to be your starter. I don't think they're going to go looking to trade for Mackenzie Blackwood, so he wouldn't. I don't think Dougie Hamilton they're going to trade. It looks like they're going to go in a rebuilding, and I don't think you would trade Dougie Hamilton anyway. I think you could put him in the other group, but that'd be kind of, I don't know. And then the last one would be Andre Palat, just because you just signed him. It's not that I wouldn't deal him. It's you just signed him. So the likelihood of you trading him is very, very slim. And I wouldn't trade him anyway just because of the message it would send to other free agents that you could be traded right away even though you sign. I don't even know if it's possible to trade. I don't know the rules about that, how long after they sign you can trade them. But that is not somebody I'd be looking to trade, especially after he just signed. A couple names, though, that the two biggest names that I would probably throw into the if it's necessary. I wouldn't try to keep them out. Or the three. Actually, there's three. Yegor Sharangovich, Alexander Holtz, and Simon Nemec. Those are the three names that you don't start with, but if one of them is required, maybe even two, you're probably going to have to do it. I love Yegor Sharangovich. We'll start with him as he's the only one in the NHL so far. Had 46 points last year, 24 goals, 22 assists. And the energy and the smile he brings is infectious. Everybody loves the way he plays. He's got a great shot. And he just brings the type of energy that you love to see in this team. But ultimately, he's not a top six winger. He's a middle six winger. He's a very good middle six winger. But to get a guy like Matthew Tkachuk, you wouldn't start with him. You don't want to trade him. But ultimately, if Calgary asks for him and they're not going to do the deal without him, you say okay to that. Second guy will go Simon Nemec. Now, you just drafted Simon Nemec. But you were willing to deal that number 2 pick. I think it was reported. I can't say this is fact, but I saw it on Twitter that the deal that the New Jersey offered to Calgary was 2 and $189 for Matthew Tkachuk. So you're comfortable dealing, or you were comfortable dealing 2, which is Nemec's pick before. So I feel like you should be comfortable to do that again. You have Luke Hughes in the back end as a prospect, so it's not that big a deal. You still have a top prospect, but obviously Nemec takes that defensive prospect and that what's the word? The chance or the promise of that defensive core up another level. But you're even just with Luke Hughes as your only like S tier prospect on the back end. Your defense is still looking very solid for the future. So I'd be willing to deal him. I wouldn't start with him, obviously. You just drafted him 2nd overall. He's supposed to be a huge part of your future. So I'd be hesitant, but I would still do it. And then probably the biggest name, the most likely name, sadly, is Alexander Holtz. Now, Alexander Holtz is our best offensive prospect, and I hope he should make the team out of camp this year. Realistically, he should start in a top 6 role for you this year. and hopefully he can round out. He is supposed to be what this team needs. What this team needs is what Alex Holtz's future is supposed to be. A sniper, a goal-scoring winger, which is exactly what you're trying to trade for in Matthew Tkachuk. So, ultimately, would you want to keep him so you can still have both of those guys? Yes. And it would make your team so much better. But ultimately, if you have to trade, put Holtz in a package. It would be very tough, but you got to do it. You're trading basically what Holtz could be or trading what Holtz now as a prospect for what Holtz could be. But Tkachuk already is that. You're hoping that Holtz can turn into a Tkachuk. At the best case scenario, you can already get a guy like that in Matthew Tkachuk. So, although I wouldn't start out with it, I would definitely be willing to put Holtz in that deal. Now, if you have to do 2 out of the 3, it definitely is going to hurt. But I wouldn't do both prospects. I do Yegor and one of the prospects. I wouldn't be willing to do both of the prospects just because it hurts your young core a bit. But if they take Yegor and Nemets or Yegor and Holtz, it would, again, be very tough, but I would do it. So basically, the Devils should almost be all in for Tkachuk. It changes your lineup dramatically. There's nothing that he does that we really have at that high of a level that we have right now. He's literally, I feel, he can be the missing piece to this team and put you over the top to be a give your team real expectations. I'll say you maybe not a Stanley Cup contender because you don't know what you have in the goalie in Blackwood and Vanacek. But your forward core looks so dangerous now and for the next 8 to 10 years. You got Heischer, you got Hughes, you'd have Bratt, Tkachuk. Those 4 names, deadly. Absolutely deadly. So, I think the Devils should... There's very few players the Devils should not be willing to trade for Tkachuk. They should be almost all in. He solves almost all their problems. Let me know what you think about should the Devils trade for Tkachuk. Who would you throw in for the trade? Who wouldn't you throw in for a trade? Let me know in the comments or tweet me on Twitter. My Twitter will be in the description. It is jsharf_1216. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the other side.